Today I'm going to talk about my favorite game mechanism in New Angeles, a kind of a semi-cooperative game for 4 to 6 players from Fantasy Flight, set in their Android Netrunner world, which you need to know nothing about to play this game. I played it recently with 5 players for the first time, and the game, it's a long game, but there's a lot of clever stuff going on in this game. And I'm going to talk about 2 of those mechanisms today, because they're 2 things that are really clever, and they're both very streamlined. The first mechanism is one of the core ideas of the game is you are struggling to make sure that the city of New Angeles doesn't just go down in ashes. And there's all these problems that are happening in the city. And to solve those problems, players propose solutions. And every round, every turn really, one player proposes the main solution that they're hoping that everyone will vote on and select. And then the player to their left can counter offer. So they can take, instead of doing a main offer, which stays on the table, they can do a counter offer against that main offer. They're just cards that you're playing that say, like, do this thing on the board. And it hopefully helps everyone. Maybe it helps some people more than others. And the really clever mechanism here is that after someone counter offers, someone else can counteroffer as well, replacing the previous counteroffer. And to do so, they have to pay 1 card from their hand. Cards are very valuable in the game because they're what you're using to make these offers, and they're also what you use to vote on the offers. It's this little twist on the mechanism. It's 2 little things here. One is that it's not just voting for or against the main offer. You have a main offer and a counteroffer that people kind of argue. It creates a ton of player interaction and an organic player interaction because the 2 players are arguing for or against the case that they've made to help the group. But then on top of that, I really like that it's not just set in stone after someone makes the first counteroffer. That someone else can come along after that and say, hey, no, I've got a better idea. Let's do this instead. This whole mechanism kind of reminded me of large group bluffing and social dynamic games, most of which are much, much shorter than New Angeles. And I just really like this twist that the offer itself evolves or can evolve until it gets back around to the original player who made the first offer. I really, really like that. The second mechanism that I really enjoyed in New Angeles is that for the most part, and I'll mention a few exceptions, but for the most part, to win the game, all you have to do is have more capital, essentially victory points, more capital than one other player. And it's a specific other player. At the beginning of the game, you get a random card that represents one of the other players at the table, or maybe your own. It's just a random dealing out of these cards. And that card represents the one player that you have to do better than. This has a huge impact on the game, not just because there can be multiple winners, but also because it gives you a key decision point throughout the game as to whose offers you want to support. Because certain offers will help players more than others. And so in the game that I played, my company, I was the broadcasting company, we were trying to beat Wayland. I think it's Wayland, it was the green faction or whatever. And so what that meant is that whenever Wayland had a proposal on the table, we didn't necessarily want it to pass, even if it helped everyone, because it would always help Wayland a little bit. And we needed to make sure that we beat Wayland. And so it's a perfect semi-cooperative mechanism because we're trying to work with the group to solve these problems of New Angeles. But at the same time, we're trying to beat not just everybody. We're not trying to win on our own. We're trying to beat that one player. And that just creates a lot of interesting dynamics throughout the game and in the various negotiations that happen. The few exceptions to this, which are also pretty interesting, because it means that you don't have to redeal if you get your own card. If you get your own card, you have to beat 3 other players in the game. It doesn't matter who. 3 other ones. The game plays 4 to 6, so sometimes in a 4-player game, you will have to beat all the other players to win. The other exception is there's one kind of trader card in there. the traitor card is the faction that, well, it's not really a faction. It is the player who wants the city to crumble, to fall, and so there is a way for the game to end and for no one to win. But if the game ends in that circumstances, and one of the players is this traitorous group, then that player wins instead. So there's always this tension of, are players, kind of like in Dead of Winter, are players doing something to advance their own self-interest and win the game, or are they doing these things so that the entire city will collapse and no one will win except for themselves? But the key mechanism here is that you're just trying to beat one other player, and I'm sure there's some other games that have that mechanism, but to me it just came across as the perfect mechanism to have in a semi-cooperative game. The tensions and dynamics it provided were just really, really interesting. If you played New Angeles, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, or if you've played other semi-cooperative games that have clever mechanisms, especially one where maybe you have to beat just one other player, or where you have this offer-counter-offer dynamic. I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Thanks.